All right, hi everybody, and welcome to our latest podcast. Again, for those who don't remember, my name is Roddy, and we moved to Mexico back in 2021, and we moved back and forth, and now call Mexico City home. And today we do have a very special guest who we're going to talk to. Some of the things we'll talk about are what we love and hate about Mexico City, maybe some ideas about residency and how to get that, food, culture, and a little bit more, and kind of go from there, see what happens. So first, let me introduce our guest, or I'll let her introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. I'm Gabrielle Smith. I'm originally from the United States. I've been living in Mexico City for 4 years now, but I've been coming back and forth to Mexico for 24 years, ever since I studied abroad in Cuernavaca in college, and completely fell head over heels in love with everything Mexico, the culture, the language, the people, the food, and have taken every opportunity to come back, and finally made it a permanent move in January of 2020.
Well, so this kind of leads to my next question, and I guess you kind of answered it, is what brought you here, which was obviously study in Cuernavaca. What did you study? And what has been your experience so far in general in Mexico?
Okay, so when I originally came in 2000, it was an immersion program with my college. Okay. So I did Spanish immersion, lived with a Mexican host family, and then went to school 6 hours a day for Spanish.
Oh, okay.
But I like I said, fell head over heels in love with Mexico. So when my program ended, I actually stayed through the summer, just continued living with my host family, paying them directly, just living here, just, hanging out, learning the language, teaching private English classes, and then I would come back. I would come back at Christmas. I'd come back summer breaks, every opportunity I had. And then a few years later, my parents became Mexican residents, and they bought a home in Puerto Peñasco, so in Sonora, in the north, on the beach. And so then there was, we were back and forth, Puerto Peñasco, Rocky Point. It depends on, Americans. Some knows Peñasco, others knows Rocky Point. A lot of people have no idea what it is at all.
Sure.
And and I would always come back down to Cuernavaca as often as I could. And every time I'd come back and visit, I was like, I got to move back here. I got to move back here. I got to move back here. And eventually, an opportunity opened up, and I'd been given a couple job offers before, but they were in Queretaro and Monterrey. And I'm a big city girl. I've lived in I've lived in LA, DC, Boston. I was like, no, if I'm going back to Mexico, I want to go to Mexico City. And so finally an opportunity opened up, and I took it and got here in January of 2020.
Okay, perfect. And I think we, me and Landy understand that, because I think that's one of the reasons that we moved from Querétaro to here. Landy is from Shanghai, some people may know, which is a big city.
Yeah.
That's kind of on par with Mexico City as far as size. And I think in Querétaro we got a little bit okay, it's nice, we loved it, we had a good time there, but we kind of got to the point where our time has come. Let's go to Mexico City, get back into the big city life, right?
Exactly.
So what has been your experience here how would you describe your experience here in Mexico City?
Pre or post pandemic, or
let's go through the whole process, because obviously obviously it's two different things, but you got here in 2020, so let's just take it from there.
Yeah. So when I first got here, I was working full time at a job, the job that had sponsored to bring me here, and then I lived out in Mexico State, actually, right next to where I was working. And then the pandemic hit, and we got sent home for a long weekend that turned into, a year and a half. And due to economic reasons with my employer, I got laid off. But then I quickly picked up another job that I worked for a bit, and then switched to another employer. I didn't work with that second one very long. And then switched to another employer, and doing educational stuff as well. But then started as a side business, helping people with their residency stuff. People would ask me questions, and I would, answer them online, et cetera, and then people started offering to hire me to do it, and then kind of just, really took off.
Okay. And so what is your residency status here? Are you a temporary, permanent, or where?
I will be permanent in 1 month and 26 days.
Oh, okay, so soon.
Yeah.
We're on the other spectrum. We've only been here. We only had ours for about a year, a little over a year.
Yeah.
So we still got a few more years to go.
Yeah. Before, no, I'm very excited to have my permanent residency.
And we'll talk more about that later, because I know some people who may be moving, may need those requirements and what it takes. Obviously someone like you could definitely help people out.
Yeah.
Now, kind of sticking with, Mexico City, if somebody knew they were coming to Mexico City, right? And this is going to be the first time, like they had made a decision or for work, what would you tell them to expect?
I would tell them to expect, Mexico City is the 7th largest city in the world. So expect a big, bustling city. Expect a lot of people. Expect a lot of noise. Expect a lot. It's just a lot at first. I feel like for a lot of people, like it's not if you've never lived in a big city or you've never lived in a foreign country, it's definitely not a soft landing place.
No, that's right.
But it's also amazing. Even or if you really want this big adventure, like yes, come to Mexico City. You have everything under the sometimes it'll be a Friday and I'm like, I have 18 different events I can go to tonight. I have analysis paralysis and then end up on the couch watching Netflix because I can't. I'm like, I don't know where to go. Expect a lot of traffic. Traffic here is rough.
Yes.
Traffic here is rough. I use the metro as often as I can.
Okay.
I eco BC too, which is a fabulous thing that we have. So you have some of the downfalls. A lot of people, the pollution can be rough, especially during certain times of the year when it's drier.
Okay.
January, February, March, when it's not rainy season, the air quality it can really affect people.
Sure.
Some things that people don't realize is how high Mexico City is and the altitude. That can also really affect people.
Right.
It affects me a lot during that dry season too. I really struggle during that time of the year, but still doesn't, take me away from Mexico City. But then it's a very international city. It's a very cosmopolitan city. It's one of the best cities in the world for food. I'm not a huge foodie, but I know that exists.
Oh yeah.
You're going to encounter the friendliest people. People are just incredibly friendly here. With the huge amount of people that have been moving here, some people you get more negativity than you used to maybe 10, 15 years ago, but it's still few and far between. It's not anything that like you should be concerned walking down the street that people are going to, I don't know, throw eggs at you or, you know what I mean? Like,
right.
But you do have the people that are like, our city has become so expensive and, it can be frustrating for the locals here.
Right.
But at the same time, they also love having people here. They're also super friendly, I don't think I've ever met a culture that's more helpful to others than Mexico. Granted, I haven't spent extended periods of time in other countries, but even just in my neighborhood, and my neighborhood's really unique, but in my neighborhood, I know all my neighbors, like I know the coffee shop owners, I know everybody kind of knows everybody, and I never have to worry about being like a single female that lives in a foreign country alone and being like, oh, I'm really sick, I need someone to take me to the doctor. Like I can text someone and they'll, one of my neighbors will be here or something like that. Like
people help.
Yeah.
Nice.
Short is that people help. But you do have to build the relationships with them. You definitely have to build, and I have the luxury of speaking fluent Spanish, having been a Spanish teacher in the U.S. And so, that is something that's really important, like to try and learn the language, to try and engage in the culture. Don't just show up and be like, oh, well, this isn't how things are where I come from, and it should be. Like, Mexico's not the most organized country.
Granted.
There are certain things that you get here and you're like, but you just go with it. We've had
a few of those,
yeah. You just kind of go with it. Like, you just have to realize that you're somewhere else. It's not where you came from, and you chose to come here, so you have to adapt. So those are just some of the things that you're going to find.
Sure. And so two things I kind of picked up on was, one, it's something we've talked about in some of our other personal podcasts and with guests, is this influx of foreigners. And in our personal opinion, again, and I don't have any data to back this up, is that we've you hear a lot about that. A lot of locals, Mexicans get upset that prices are raising. The way we see it is that foreigners make up a very small percentage. And I can maybe understand that in a place like Mexico City, maybe in certain areas, because you do hear certain little enclaves, certain neighborhood, Condesa and Roma Norte, those areas. Sure, well, I guess you could understand the prices being raised. But in general, in other parts of Mexico or even other parts of Mexico City, do you really, in your personal opinion, do you feel that that's the cause is foreigners, or is that just the natural progression of the economy?
That's the $1 million question. Like, did all of these things happen? Because, inflation has taken place all over the world.
Right.
Did it just happen to be that because of inflation, other people fled their countries, but inflation also hit Mexico? Or is it the foreigners that are bringing inflation? Really hard to say. I mean, I do know that there are people that are willing to pay more because they still feel like they're getting a deal. Right. And I feel like it's a little combination of both.
True.
Maybe a combination of both. Like, landlords know they have these foreigners coming in. They're like, oh, well, if I can up my economic status, why not? Because they can. But at the same time, Mexico, and like a restaurant that I go to regularly, even last night, I was like, what? Like, did you guys raise your prices again? You know what I mean? He's like, a little bit ago. And I'm like, I just don't think that, this pizza is worth this much anymore. But yeah, I've seen slight increments too. And that's in like local businesses and things like that. Not just not just, in housing and things like that.
Yeah, and another thing you mentioned, and everyone, Sochi Marie. She's a little chiflada, but we'll deal with her. She's sweet.
She's a good time.
You talked about language and you knowing the language, which I think is very important. I think most people would understand that. Let me get my little sheet here, please. You were obviously a teacher, and you taught Spanish.
I've taught Spanish, and then I teach English here.
So maybe what would you suggest for people who want to learn the language? Would you be one of those who would consider going to a school or immersion program, or even something like an app?
I've tried apps for other languages for myself, and I don't know if I just didn't get the right app for the specific language. I mean, I know people that have used apps and they think they're great. I haven't had much luck, like in French, for example.
Okay.
Like, I don't really need to say the cow is spotted. Like, I need to be able to, there are a couple different places here. I would say depends on the extent. Like, do you just want to be conversational, be able to get through the day-to-day, right? You could use an app to kind of supplement, and then find like a conversational Spanish teacher. Right. Or there are 8,562, I don't have that number exact, but language exchange programs. I mean, not exchange programs, but like language exchange groups that happen all around the city every day of the week. You can find something where you can sit down and have a language exchange. But the more that you immerse yourself with the locals, the more that you're going to get exposure that way. Right. I mean, that's how I learned. You know what I mean? Like, I took it in high school, I took it in middle school, I took it in elementary school, and I got to college, and I'm like, still don't know how to say anything other than me llamo, soy de, y tengo 20 años, or whatever, right? Yeah. So I came here, I did the immersion program, and even though I did 6 hours of school a day, my biggest thing was going out with my Mexican friends, out to lunch, out to dinner, and even still, I've been speaking the language fluently for 20-something years. Every day I pick up new words, or I pick up new slang, or etc. And that's just because majority of my surrounding and majority of my social life is either Mexicans or foreigners that are from other Latin American countries. Okay. So I would say that, but also there are some, some form of like the CEPE program with UNAM. It's, it's very well known. International House, I think, does some as well. There's a really cool one that I've heard about that's called Walking Spanish or something like that. Okay. That in my mind is like the concept is brilliant because it's daily life stuff. Like, you take the course while walking around the city, learning how to go, order a coffee, being like, how do I pay? Do you have change for the 5 pesos so I can use the restroom? Like, how do I take the metro? Like, I think that's brilliant. If you're, really wanting kind of a crash course on how to survive in the city when you first get here, I think it's brilliant. I don't know who it's offered through. I've just seen it in a few Facebook groups and WhatsApp groups, but
and that makes sense because that's the best way to learn. Is
exactly
what am I going to need? And especially if you're getting here and you want to survive. Yeah, that's the best way to survive.
Yeah.
daily banking, groceries, whatever it might be.
Exactly.
Oh, okay.
Exactly.
So that's good. So look into little programs, immersion, or the combination of two, right? So yeah, no, great. Now, kind of going back and switching back to our little questions here. A slight variation. I asked you if somebody knew they were coming here.
Yep.
Right. What would you say? Now, what about someone who was maybe considering moving here? Like maybe they had a couple of places, maybe a couple of cities or a couple of different countries. I guess you would phrase it, or would kind of be your elevator pitch. Why would you say, you know what, come to Mexico City?
Yeah. I would say it's an easy place to get a good start. It has, you do have a lot of English speakers here. And I'm not talking about, English speakers from other countries, like a lot of Mexicans that speak English, especially in kind of the more saturated foreign area, foreigners, where the foreigners are living. And it's an amazing city. It's so historical. I kind of like to, if I were to have to compare it to, the United States, for example, it's kind of like a blend of the history of Boston, even though the history in Mexico goes way further back, the cosmopolitan finance aspect of Manhattan, maybe, and then the political aspect of DC, because you've got, it's the capital of the country, so it's got all the embassies, it's got all the diplomats, it's got people from all over. It's very international in that aspect, but then it's also got, more museums per capita than almost any other major city in the world, if not. It's got huge green spaces, which is something that people are always so shocked about. You know what I mean? Look at my house. Like I call my house the tree house, right? Yeah. I live literally 2-3 minutes from Chapultepec Forest, which is the largest forest in Latin America. It's 2 or 3 times bigger than Central Park. Right. So you can hike, you can be active, you can live in it literally has something to offer everyone. Right. There's no lacking of anything. Live music, theater, culture, dance, major major airport that can get you pretty much anywhere in the world. And then on top of that, it's surrounded by all of these great little cities that you can go to for day trips or weekend trips and things like that. If you're like, I really need a break from the city life, let me hop on a bus for $12 to go down to Cuernavaca for an hour and a half bus ride and spend the weekend in the city of Eternal Spring, hanging out by the pool and drinking my pina coladas. Whatever.
Exactly. There's just so much. I think sometimes people don't realize. They may have an idea, but it just offers so much. Yes. I think, and like you've listed so many things. And there's probably other things we could talk about and that people don't even realize. Right.
But you don't need a vehicle. That's another thing. Like,
you don't need a vehicle.
You don't need a vehicle at all. People that have cars here, I'm like, wow, you're brave.
I got a car.
You're brave.
We bought in Queretaro.
Hey, but you came from Queretaro, so there's that. Yeah, exactly.
So I'm kind of used to that craziness.
Yeah, exactly.
When you're driving, 80 miles an hour, 90 miles an hour everywhere in Houston, and you come here, it's congested, but everyone's driving for the most part slowly.
Yeah, that's true. Not that hard. Exactly, that's true.
So I have a little bit of a cheat sheet when I came here.
It's kind of like a video game. You're like, all right, who's gonna
squeeze in here?
Yeah, exactly.
So you kind of mentioned traveling. It's a good jumping off point, Mexico City for traveling. And I know this may be difficult for some people, but if I had to ask, like maybe you've traveled around Mexico, right?
Yeah.
What would be your maybe top 3 places you've traveled to, and why?
My top 3 places. Well, Cuernavaca will always have Cuernavaca will always have a. There we go. Cuernavaca will always have a soft spot in my heart. It's just kind of, I don't know, my entire life changed. You studied abroad. I learned a new culture. I fell in love with this family that were complete strangers that are now still a part of my life 24 years later, So nice. Cuernavaca, the city, it's changed a lot over the years. Okay. And I don't want to say not for the better. It's not the Spanish language hotspot that it used to be. Okay. It used to have most Spanish language schools per capita in all of Mexico, if not all of Latin America. I don't recall. I'm really bad with data. Give me languages or something. But numbers I don't do. But it used to, and it's calmed down, and it's more of just somewhere that you go. You want a lazy weekend. You want to rent a house with a pool. But it's still beautiful. And I do love, like, there are times where I go back and forth where I'm like, should I go down to Cuernavaca? Like, move to Cuernavaca? Yeah. It's cheaper.
Sure.
Okay. It's I mean, it's one of the more expensive cities in Mexico, but comparatively, it's cheaper.
Okay.
To here, I could get this apartment for significantly less than.
Right.
Well, I could take what I pay here and get a 4-bedroom house with a pool and a yard and whatever. But I like the city life. And then the entire state of Michoacan. Okay. Every time I've gone to Michoacan, I just came back 2 days ago. I did a day trip there to the little Christmas village that I cannot pronounce to save my life. I find Michoacan to just be really charming.
Okay.
Morelia is beautiful. Pátzcuaro, went for Dia de Muertos. That was amazing. The town that starts with a T, that's the Christmas village that does all of the Christmas ornaments that I can't pronounce. Everything's just so cute in Morelia, and Michoacan, I mean. I really enjoyed the state in general.
Okay.
A lot to offer. I feel like there's a lot to offer. And then one that I would love to keep secret, but the entire world knows about it because it's way too common and popular on TikTok and Instagram, Bacalar.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Bacalar is to die for. If I could take, 3 months out of the year and live in Bacalar like this and then come back and then go back to, that would be, Bacalar is absolutely, amazing.
What makes it so amazing?
It's just so chill. The lagoon is beautiful. I mean, color, they call it the Lagoon of 7 Colors.
Oh, okay.
And that's not an exaggeration. It is, you see pictures. It's one of those places where you see the pictures and you're like, that has to be Photoshopped.
Yeah.
And then you get there and you're like,
stuff, right?
Oh no, that's real.
Wow.
Like, this is actually what it looks like. The people are friendly. It's just, it's very rustic, which I actually really liked. Like, it's a tiny little town, but it's where you go to, like, chill out. Like, I went and I just read books, and it would get really hot during the day. I would sit in my hotel room, and then I, go out early in the morning, kayak, and see the sunrise. And they claim the lagoon has magical properties. I don't know. But
makes you feel good.
It makes you feel really good. Yeah. I came back and I was like, wow, I really needed that break. Wow. But I didn't, I'm taking my mom there for her birthday in January when she comes in January. It's just, yeah, I think it's my favorite place on earth at this point.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. They're definitely on our hit list.
Yeah.
And of course, Cuernavaca. And we're new here, but we've already seen it on online and stuff.
Yep.
And we're definitely taking a little weekend trip away to go there for sure.
Yeah.
But now, speaking of Michoacan, before we move on to our next question, you mentioned the state of Michoacan.
Yeah.
Obviously in the news, government alerts, you always hear that this is an extremely
dangerous area. Yeah.
So what would you say to that?
I would say definitely do not, like, if you're going to Michoacan, every time I've gone to Michoacan, I either went with a tour or, no, actually, I only went once with the tour. The other 2 times I went with a group of friends in a car. It was their personal vehicle. But just stay on the toll roads, drive during the day, and don't go in, like, try not to break down in some village that you don't, just stay on the main roads and don't, like, we went as a group of 4 girls for Dia de Muertos. We went to Pátzcuaro. We went to Santa Clara de Cobre, which is another little pueblo, like maybe 30 minutes from Pátzcuaro. Okay. I mean, these are all things that you do. We never felt uncomfortable or unsafe, just making sure that we left at like 10 a.m., made sure that we were back before dark, and that just
so keeping, kind of the standard.
Yeah, exactly.
All roads daytime is probably the safest thing.
Exactly.
And I feel as long as you're going to those more touristy destinations,
correct,
those highways and roads tend to be safer.
Exactly. Yeah, like you're not going to run into, or the statistical chance of you running into a problem in one of those towns is going to be lower because they don't want to lose that tourism.
Sure.
So they're going to make sure that those areas are protected.
Right. I think at the end of the day, whatever you feel about them, cartels, if that's what we're talking about, they're a business.
They are a business.
Right. So they don't want to mess up their business.
Exactly.
Right. So,
and part of their job is to protect people.
Right.
Right. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. Part of what they do is they protect their areas, they protect their businesses. The only time that there's really cartel issues is when you have turf wars. So
and that's I think sometimes that's when like the innocent bystanders can get caught in the middle.
Exactly.
Wrong place, wrong time type of thing.
Exactly. Right? Exactly. Which could happen in a school shooting in the U.S. But,
exactly.
We'll just,
that's the
whole story. This is, I have a very skewed, I was a teacher. So, I have a very skewed, where I'm like, the chances of me getting caught by the cartel, the chances of me getting caught in a school shooting, I don't know, maybe that's the same.
I was kind of like, maybe not inner city Houston when I taught, but I was like in a social area in Houston at the high school I taught. So I definitely understand that.
Exactly.
Great. And I think that's good advice, and I think it's something we've heard repeated over. Just the basic advice, right?
Yeah.
Now, we talked about your favorite places.
Yeah.
Now let's flip that, right? And this is a very objective opinion from one person's experience.
Yes.
If you had to say, let's stick with one spot.
Yeah. Just one?
Or if you want to maybe list 2 or 3, I'll leave it up to you. On the other side of maybe least favorite, or places or underwhelming, however you want to word it, here in Mexico that maybe you wouldn't travel to again.
Yeah.
Twice.
Don't start. Do not. So you didn't like it either. I know you weren't even there, but you didn't like it. You just didn't like me going away. I have to say, and everybody's gonna be like, "This girl's out of her mind." 3 weeks ago, I went to Isla Mujeres.
Oh, okay.
You could not pay me to go back there.
Really?
You could not pay me to go back there.
Oh, why?
It was jam-packed with tourists.
Oh, okay.
It was expensive. Not like expensive, Manhattan expensive,
sure.
But it was definitely, I had like a meal and maybe a couple of cocktails and it was like $60.
Oh, yeah.
It's expensive. Yeah. I don't know what to do about that. And it just, so I don't know. I couldn't really put my finger on it, but I just did not enjoy it. Like I was excited. I needed to get back to Mexico City so I could relax.
Okay. Right. Which is kind of odd, right?
Yeah, exactly. City. It was just packed. It was just, it was too touristy for me. Way too touristy for me. And the North Beach area is beautiful. It is one of the most beautiful beaches in the world.
And for a reason, right?
Yeah, exactly. It is beautiful, but it's packed. You don't, and, they've got vendors and they've got this. And I was like, I just wanted a really chill beach, vacation. And, I don't know. I don't know. I felt like it was it's overhyped.
Okay. And another place? I know you mentioned only one, but is there anything else with maybe?
Where have I traveled within Mexico recently? Because I've been to a lot of places that are no longer what they used to be. Like,
okay.
20 years ago, I went to San Cristobal, I went to Puerto Escondido, I went to Tulum. What I have to say about those places now is completely irrelevant. You may. I'm not a fan of Queretaro.
Okay.
Not a fan of Queretaro. It's too new. It reminds me a lot of Phoenix.
Oh, yeah, I could see that.
It reminds me a lot of Phoenix. I'm like, I don't know. Meh. It was meh. I didn't, again, it's one of those places that has a lot of hype.
Right.
It's very popular. It's very, and I'm like, why? Why does everybody want to live here? So, I would like to go again. Mm-hmm. I just thought of another place that I really love, which is this. Well, that's the thing. Queretaro. So I went to Queretaro City, right? Mm-hmm. I also went to Tequisquiapan and Bernal, which are phenomenal, really cool. Right? Yeah, they're really cool. But Queretaro City, I just was not. It felt very sterile and very. I felt like I was in Phoenix. I was like, Yeah.
But Queretaro, obviously, I can speak to that. You have the historic center, and then once you get out of this center, it kind of does transition to like a very new area. It has a lot of sprawl.
Yep.
It is a very growing area.
Yeah.
So you do have like a lot of new developments and builds. So it does have that kind of feel to it.
Exactly.
The weather's nice, but one thing that we kind of didn't like towards the end was you don't have as much greenery there because it is semi-desert.
Yep, that too. Right? Yep.
So again, you don't have all the big trees like you have here in Mexico City. So yeah, I could understand that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Exactly. But yeah, where else did I have not liked? Can't really think of anything.
Okay. Now, so let's kind of go to, before you came to Mexico. What was your, because I know people have their ideas or preconceptions of Mexico before they get here. So what was your impressions before you got to Mexico? Like, what was Mexico going to be like? What did you hear about it?
Well, are we talking about this time around, or
let's start from the beginning, because that's usually people's, we want to talk about when people kind of first moved here. So what was your first impression when you got here back in 2000, right?
Yes. Oh my gosh, that was so long ago. I think I just remember being like a bright-eyed college student, being like, oh, I get to go somewhere new. I just always was drawn to foreign country. Like, I wanted to be a foreign service agent. I wanted to get my master's in international relations. So I just was really determined to learn Spanish, and I was more focused on my program and Cuernavaca and the school. Like, I just poured over all of the catalogs and the pictures of the school and all of these things, but I don't think I ever really thought about Mexico as a whole.
Okay, like any fears or concerns, or
I don't think so. I think I was just too excited to go. You know what I mean? I walked into it nothing, and back then, we didn't have social media. We didn't have all of these things to be able to influence me. People are like, "You're going to Mexico," and we'd been going to Rocky Point. Because it's the border of Arizona, it's where everybody would go to Rocky Point. Everybody would go to Rocky Point to go to the beach.
Right.
So I don't really. I think it was more like, what's my host family going to be like?
Right.
Like, what's my housing situation going to be like? What's the school going to be like? And then I was just very, very excited and pleasantly surprised.
Yeah. So you obviously had a very different, coming to Mexico had a very kind of different story, and like I said, it was a very different time period. Obviously, things are different now, and I think we always hear impressions now when people come because things have changed.
Right.
Especially how much, like I said, with social media, definitely influences that. But kind of switching gears here. You've been here, you help people, who may be wanting to move here. So let's kind of talk about things that people may need to consider, like cost of living. Right. Yeah. And again, obviously, this is going to be very different from where people are coming from.
Correct.
But how would you give a general impression of the cost of living here in Mexico City?
So it's definitely not, you hear a lot of people like, why are you moving to Mexico? Oh, it's so cheap. First off, I hate that. It's not cheap, it's inexpensive, right? But it's not that inexpensive. Especially if you're going to live somewhere like Mexico City, especially if you want to keep up kind of the life, if you're coming from another metropolitan area, or, keep up kind of the lifestyle that you had. Like, you can go to the wine bar around the corner, have 2 glasses of wine and, 2, not entrees, entradas, appetizers, and drop $45, $50, equivalent, depending on where the peso is at the time too. But it is, I mean, you definitely get more for your money depending on where you're coming from.
Okay.
Like, I came from Phoenix, so my cost of living, I would say the biggest chunk of my cost of living, and for most people, but then again, I mentioned I'm not like a big foodie, so eating out isn't something I do very often.
Okay.
I love to cook. I go to my coffee shop, and so that really isn't something that's in my budget. Like, if I go out to eat, it's maybe once or twice a month, right?
Okay.
So for me, I would say the largest chunk of my expenses are my housing.
Okay.
Yeah. And I chose to live in a neighborhood that's a little bit pricier, but also a little bit off the grid that not a lot of foreigners know about yet.
Right.
So that's nice. So it was pricey before, it's pricey even for a Mexican, for having more locals in it.
Sure.
And I feel like a lot of people do spend their money. So if you're a single person, let's kind of break it down a little bit, because it's also going to depend.
Right.
So a single person, I feel like the biggest chunk would probably be your housing first.
Absolutely.
And then
Mexico City especially, right?
Yes, yes. Yeah, exactly. And then after that, depending on your lifestyle, if you're someone that's going out to eat a few nights a week, like that can run you between, 20, 30, 40, up to 100 USD equivalent, depending on,
what you like.
depending on what you like. And if you want to go really high end, you could spend, a lot more than that. Or at the same time, you can walk down the street and have 5 tacos al pastor for 66 pesos.
Right.
So, which I might do today. And then groceries here sometimes can be kind of expensive.
I think it depends, right?
Yeah, it depends. Like, if you're going to the actual grocery store, yes. If you're shopping at the markets, no. And I usually shop at the market. Like I have a great veggie market around the corner. I just go every day when I need something, produce, and I pick it up, and there you go. And then from there, I guess it would just be transportation. And it depends on how you get around. Like, I use Uber for convenience, or when it's raining or at night and I'm alone, or not alone, but still. And then, but I also try to use the metro as often as possible. And the metro is 5 pesos.
Yeah.
It's 5 pesos. I mean, that you can't really beat that. And, I don't feel bad using the metro because I pay taxes here. Because of it's subsidized. Yeah, exactly. As is as are utilities. So gas and electric and things are super cheap, especially coming from Arizona, where my AC bill was who knows how much, a lot. Yeah,
just like Houston and Texas, right?
Yeah, exactly. Texas, same. And then let me think what else. I have dogs. Veterinary care is fabulous. Like comparatively, insanely inexpensive, which is really a blessing, especially when you have 2.
Yeah, I know. I just had just speaking of that, we had an experience 2 days ago. One of our little dogs had a little emergency. I had to take it to the night vet, 24-hour.
Yeah.
The difference between the normal, it was a first time visit and the emergency visit was only 20 pesos. She had to have an X-ray. The only difference between the regular and the night visit was like 100 pesos, which is like $5.
My gosh!
And so total with going there, X-rays, medicine, it was the total was like 1,500 pesos.
Yeah,
which is like roughly $75-$80.
Yeah, which is like what a regular checkup is.
Right, you just walk into the vet office and have a checkup. You're spending $600-$800.
Yeah,
and this was everything, and it was very, very good. So I could definitely speak to that. The price was phenomenal.
Sochi Alto, yep, same. She got attacked. Which was her own fault, her surgery and all that. And then, it just kind of depends, like another thing, I travel outside the city a lot.
Okay.
I travel maybe, I would say like once a month. Like sometimes I'll do a day trip. Sometimes I'll go down to Cuernavaca and visit my host family. Sometimes I'll, go on like a 5-day trip to the beach or whatever, because I work remotely. So, I think for me personally, for some people that spend their money on food is what I spend in travel. Right?
Sure. Right.
Yeah, that's my priority. Like, I just want to see everything. Other people are like, I just want to taste everything. And so that is another thing that a lot of people living here do spend their money on and actually have like a proper travel budget.
Right.
For example.
And so, we talked about rentals, or where you're going to stay is probably going to be your most expensive part of living here.
Yes.
So what is, so again, someone who's coming here, probably 99% of people who first move here are going to consider renting.
Yeah.
What's the rental process like? Because it's very different than back in the US.
Yes,
I would say.
Very different.
So what should people expect, and what's the process like?
It's going to vary really depending on the building, depending on the owner, because, the only consistency is inconsistency. But one of the processes that a lot of people hear about is needing to have what's called an aval or a fiador.
Right.
Which is like a cosigner. I feel like I've seen less and less of that. Just because people don't have that, and these people, foreigners don't have that, but these landlords want to rent out their places, so they gotta come to So what I see a lot of people do is offer multiple deposits or multiple months rent up front, things like that. And then there's also the polisa, which is getting to be pretty standard.
Yeah.
And that's just an annual insurance policy, and it's an annual insurance policy. Right. A lot of people but I paid the police at the beginning of my lease. Like, I'm renewing. Why do I have to pay again? Because it's an annual policy.
Right.
And that shouldn't be more than 1/3 of the month's.
Right. About 30%.
Yeah. About 30% of 1 month's rent.
Right.
And sometimes you'll get a landlord that'll split it with you. Mine does, which is awesome. So, every year I pay, I don't know, 3,000 pesos, something like that. Okay. And she pays the other 3,000.
And so what does that entail? I mean, I know the best way to look at it is kind of insurance, but what exactly?
Don't know. Like, I don't really. Someone explained to me that it actually covers the landlord and the tenant.
Yeah.
Like, say the tenant isn't. I know that covers the landlord in the case that the tenant just takes off. Right. And they stop paying or whatever. They don't pay because the eviction process here is not easy. Right. So I know that it covers the landlord in that sense. I've been told that it also covers the tenant if, for example, there are repairs that need to be done that the landlord isn't taking care of.
Right.
I haven't. So that's the, like, then once you get a place that you like, that you're interested in, the police also does the background check usually. Yes, right. Yeah, the police does a background check. And then every landlord's different on what they're going to require. Like, I've had a landlord ask for someone's, and I had to explain this to, I have a realtor that I partner with, and I had to explain this to her because she's like, they want their credit check from the US. And I'm like, that's completely irrelevant here, A. Right. And B, in the US, yes, they do a credit check when we rent an apartment, but the fee is on the landlord. Right. Like, they want to do a credit check. Like, it costs us money to pull our credit. It's not something that you just go online and pull up, willy-nilly. Like, it's a procedure. Right. And so, like, that was the hardest one. Like, they wanted all this stuff. They wanted pay stubs. They wanted all of these different things. Right. So eventually they just walked away from the apartment because they're like, this is how the landlord's going to be right now. Like, no.
How are they going to be down the line, right?
Yeah, exactly. So for my apartment, for example, well, when I first moved into it, my work was paying my majority of my rent. I had to pay the part that they didn't cover. And so they were considered my fiador, because they were technically the ones renting the apartment. Right. So after I was no longer working for them and I went to renew, what we did was, day in the life. What we did was I paid 3 months rent up front, and then we did the polisa.
Oh, okay, right.
And then the following, they had the attorney there. It was this formal thing where we sat down. Everybody, 5 copies we went through the contract, paragraph by paragraph, et cetera, et cetera.
Initial sign.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And then now, your signature, your initials on every page. And now it's super informal. I mean, like, this past year, the realtor just for the place, because this is my 4th year here, the realtor just drove by and she was like, Here it is. I mean, they know me. They know my pay. They know, basically. She was like, I'm in a hurry, and I was getting my hair done. And I literally ran out of the hair salon. She handed it to me. Lovely to see you. Yeah. And that's where it went. Sochi, Alto. So I've seen everything in between. Now, I have, in regards to finding a place, there are a variety of ways to do this.
Well, if I can just interject real quick. Yeah. Because I kind of going in the same way. Did you use a realtor to help you find a place?
For this place, no. Okay.
Because our experience was, we've only been here a month. And so when we found one, maybe it was our price range. But what they found, or what we were told, was that a lot of realtors aren't willing to share the commission, like, under a certain price. I mean, now, of course, it can vary from agent to agent. Yeah. But that was a big... So we ended up just doing everything ourselves. Because, she's like, I called... we sent her a list of like 20 places. Oh, I got an appointment for one because all the rest wouldn't split commissions. Yeah. Is that a big issue here? Have you noticed that?
It's very common. Yeah. Very common. A lot of realtors do not do tenant placement.
Right.
So what they do is they try to place people in the apartments that they are representing.
Right.
So yeah, that's pretty common.
Right. So I think just for people who may be coming, don't expect that kind of realtor care, because you may have to do it on your own.
Yeah, exactly.
So be prepared to have to deal with that and all the things that go with it. And if you don't speak the language, that may be an issue.
Have someone that speaks the language. Even if it's a foreign friend, but if you can find a Mexican friend, even better, because they're going to be able to negotiate better for you.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's the thing that kind of was odd to us when we moved here.
One of the things that, so there are a bunch of different websites. I actually did find my apartment via a website, but I also happened to walk by it when I was walking around the neighborhood looking for places, not realizing that it was the same place.
Right.
But that's just me being a goober. So there's some websites, but it's real. Like, you know, I'll have clients call me and they're like, "Hey, I want to do a relocation tour. I want to look at some apartments," and you know, and so I'll message the realtors, and I will get, "Are you an agent?" And I'm like, "No, I'm you know, and I just tell them I'm a friend. You know, helping taking my friends out for the day or whatever, so that they know they don't have to share that commission with me." And then I lost my train of thought. Sorry. So, but a lot of times they just won't even respond.
Right.
But I've found that one of the websites, Inmuebles 24,
which is probably the most popular.
I feel like has been the most legit. Like like people actually respond. People do this. People do that. And then a lot of the really good deals, though, you find pounding the pavement.
Yeah, that's what we've heard, right?
Yep.
I mean, when we found ours, we did, you know, the old through Inmuebles and like Viva Nuncios. I forgot which one.
Yeah. Both of those will work.
Yeah, but we didn't really go and look for numbers. We did actually a couple of times. We saw some numbers on listed on the side of the building and called.
Yep.
So so that was definitely an ordeal. Right?
Yeah,
and it's definitely going to be something people need to consider.
Right
now,
and you want to be able to speak Spanish.
Yeah, it does help. And I'll kind of piggybacking off what you mentioned about like neighborhood tours and stuff.
Yeah.
So when people come here, just like any major metropolitan city, I guess depending on who you are, what would be some suggestions of maybe places they may want to look? Like, let's say, for instance, you're either single or you're a professional, digital nomad, whatever you might call it. What are some areas that tend to be popular for that type of clientele?
So those neighborhoods, I mean, we kind of, it's kind of become the joke, the Roma Dessa triangle.
Yeah.
Roma Norte Condesa is where people just flock. Especially, you want a soft landing. Like, I can't go to a restaurant in Condesa or Roma without them just automatically giving me an English menu.
Yeah.
And I actually get frustrated. I'm like, yo, I've spoken, I speak Spanish. You don't like, they just don't just assume, anyways, that's my own personal. We're gonna
95% of the time they're probably right.
They're probably right, but that's just my own personal. Like, I worked my butt off to get to this level of where I am. You know what I mean? Like, I do. Yeah, I don't. But I get it. I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know if you were to do something like that in the States, like. A Latino-looking person sits down in a restaurant and you offer them a menu in Spanish, you're looking at a lawsuit. Like,
very true. Never thought of it from that perspective, but yeah.
So that's where I guess that's kind of where I come from. Where I'm like, why do you just assume that I need them? But
so what makes those areas? I mean, I guess we're kind of speaking on it, but what makes those areas popular for that type of clientele?
What makes them popular? Yeah. I mean, I think they're beautiful. They're really, Roma Norte is considered kind of like the hipster neighborhood, even for Mexican, it's the hipster neighborhood.
Right.
I mean, there's coffee shops, like, I think there are more coffee shops in Roma Norte than there are in all of them. Like, at least it feels that way. Probably. I don't know. But, Condesa is beautiful. You've got Parque Mexico, you've got Parque España, you've got gorgeous buildings, you've got, the not history, the architecture there, and all of these, and that's also just kind of where people have been congregating for years.
Right.
And they're central too, they're not really on the outskirts. Other neighborhoods that people are starting to move towards are like La Naverte, Nápoles, Del Valle. There's another one that a lot of people go to that I just forgot the name of, but those are pretty popular as well, because they're also central enough, but at the same time out of the little expat bubble,
right? And
you can get a little bit more for your money. In some of those neighborhoods you get more modern buildings. Something that I don't know if people realize this or not, but Condesa is actually along the fault line it's one of the worst places for the earthquakes.
Right. We actually did a little thing on that. Like, it's we did a little research and we found like you can overlay the ancient Mexico, right, with the Teotihuacan stuff over modern Mexico, like where the lake was. And it all falls. Condesa, Roma Norte all fall on where the lake used to be. So it's a lot more not as solid.
Exactly. So just kind of depends what you're looking for. And then we've got Polanco, which is definitely higher end, more expensive. A lot of diplomats live there.
Would you consider these places? I mean, still good for like, again, a single young digital nomad, or like would that kind of be leading more to my next part? Is like maybe what areas are good for like families and stuff. Now, is Polanco kind of, in these areas we've mentioned, is it kind of a good crossbreed, or is
maybe a good crossbreed? I mean, we talked about our personal ages earlier before we started recording. So let's talk, like, when you say young digital nomad, what age are we?
Well, I mean, I would just assume people like in their 20s. Right. I mean, we're talking like,
I feel like 20s,
into the early 30s, maybe.
Yeah, 20s, early 30s definitely tend to more Condesa Roma Norte.
Right.
I'm trying to think in regards to my clientele where most of them live.
Right.
I have very few that live in Polanco. The digital nomads, younger,
right. I think maybe that kind of starts leaning into more like the families.
Yeah, the family, exactly. Right. Families, executives,
right.
Diplomats. Those are the type. Part of the reason is because a lot of corporations, a lot of the embassies and stuff actually own apartments in those areas. Right. So they just place their, they place their employees there. And then, you also have like the Santa Fe area, which is, its own world. Yeah. But a lot of people do choose to live there because they like the modern. They like it is a little bit higher altitude, it is a little bit further from the city. So the air quality is a tad bit better. You know what I mean? And so there are people and families, you get a little bit more space for your money, sort of thing, out there in the Santa Fe or Interlomas, which isn't even Mexico City anymore. We're talking Mexico State. It's where I first lived when I moved here. And it's not somewhere that I would choose to live on my own. And then going south, Coyoacan too, for families especially. I have a lot of families or like older couple, not necessarily older, but like, mid-50s, 60s couples that are still active, no children, but they want to have more space. Like, so I have a client, for example, who invited me to Thanksgiving. They've got this beautiful house. It's just, nice. She and her partner live there. They've got a beautiful house. And it's perfect for them, and it's down there. Coyoacan is harder for transit. Yeah. If you are a person that really wants to use the metro or the buses and things like that, it's a little bit harder to maneuver. Okay. But if you're willing to live south, it's beautiful and worth it. I mean, I would live there if it was more centrally located.
Yeah, we looked into it as well, right? Yeah. And I think you also kind of mentioned, which is going to be my third category, which is like older retired couples. Mm-hmm. And I think that tends to be a popular spot, right? Is Coyoacan. Exactly. For that demographic, are there, besides Coyoacan, would you suggest maybe other places, or? I feel like a lot of them either would go to Coyoacan, Polanco, San Angel. Oh, okay. Yep, San Angel, Guadalupe, but all of that's leaning more south. Okay. This neighborhood has houses too, because a lot of neighborhoods don't have houses, mostly apartments. But this neighborhood also has houses, so I know a couple families that live in this neighborhood too. Like I said, we're kind of our own little pueblo here in this little triangle. So you kind of got the whole gamut here. You've got, a lot of locals that have lived here for years, families that live in big apartments, families that rent houses, and over here. Oh, okay. You. Bless you. Yeah. So I guess that kind of falls into my last category of other places to suggest, which you mentioned a lot, right? Yep. Because there's always the popular ones, and then there's always the other ones that people may not know as well. Yeah. Like you mentioned. Now, kind of like favorite places to travel, not so. Are there neighborhoods you would suggest people maybe avoid or maybe try to stay away from because maybe they hear, they're less expensive or whatever, they feel it's more. I hate this term, real Mexico. But maybe just not the best place to go. I would. It kind of depends on how comfortable they are with maneuvering. Very local. Mm-hmm. And a foreigner doesn't want to live in Tepito. That's. I mean. I think that's pretty much common knowledge at this point, unless you've really never been to Mexico or know anything about Mexico. Right. I can't really think of any neighborhoods that people would even know about as a foreigner coming here. Sure. That you're other than like Tepito. I mean, I have clients that live in Iztapalapa. But they're also married to Mexicans, and it's right. People always throw out Doctores, but Doctores isn't. It's not a horrible neighborhood. Yeah. I also have some friends that live there, also married to Mexicans though. So I don't know if I don't know if they would feel comfortable living there on their own if they weren't there with their male Mexican spouse. Right. But it's not somewhere that
I would feel super uncomfortable. I think, especially since I think that neighborhood, I don't know it super well, but I think that neighborhood's kind of split half and half, like part of it. Tacubaya, for example. Tacubaya borders here.
Yeah.
Tacubaya is fine where it borders where we are, but then as soon as you cross a certain line of the neighborhood, no. As soon as you cross a certain line of the neighborhood, then it gets a little bit seedier and you don't really want to be there, don't have, I don't remember Observatorio. No, there's another neighborhood kind of. Daniel Garza, which is kind of over in this area as well. Not the best area, but I don't feel like people would be like even know about those neighborhoods unless you lived in like a certain.
Been here for a while, maybe.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Yeah, and that's good. I mean, because you're right. I think for the most part, people who are coming here, they've probably heard of most of the places we mentioned, right?
Exactly.
And if you've heard of them, there's probably a reason for that. And if you haven't heard this other areas,
exactly.
there's probably a reason for that as well.
Exactly. Like there are a couple of neighborhoods, like Santa Maria la Ribera, San Rafael, Alamos. They are, especially Santa Maria la Ribera and San Rafael, are starting to become very, very well known.
Yeah.
But if you were to ask my neighbor downstairs, who's lived in Mexico City her entire life, if Santa Maria la Ribera is safe, she would tell you no.
It's like,
whereas, I don't agree with that.
Right.
But we also have different levels of, I don't know, different levels of.
We stayed in San Rafael when we were looking for our place here in Mexico. So
it's a great neighborhood.
We liked it. It was very nice. Again, kind of almost. Maybe a Roma Norte feel kind of young, upcoming. It's kind of transitioning.
Yeah, without the prices of Roma Norte.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So it was an interesting little area, but again, something that most people probably haven't heard of. Right.
It's definitely out there. It's definitely getting out there, but it's not. Yeah, it's not Roma Dessa.
Yeah. All right, great. So kind of transitioning to our last part, which is the most exciting part, residencies and visas and all that kind of good stuff.
Right.
If I were to kind of maybe change it up and something we didn't talk about. If I were to give you a little kind of rapid fire questions here.
Yeah, sure. As long as this one isn't interrupting me, sure.
So sometimes people always think about like street food here in Mexico, right?
Okay.
So if you were to go favorite street food that's not a taco.
I'm not a foodie.
Oh, yeah, I know. You mentioned that earlier. But so I know tacos are the go-to.
Yeah. Yep. Favorite street food that's not a taco. I don't know. I don't eat. I don't eat. There is something that I really like, and I know where to find it, but I have no idea what it's called.
What is it? Or how would you describe it?
Maybe kind of like a gordita.
Not pambosa. The la collas? Like no. I'm trying to throw some out there. It's like little blue corn and stuff?
Yeah, exactly. It's something in that style. I remember having, but yeah, no.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, again, not being a foodie. Okay, that makes sense.
I'm not the person to ask. It's bad.
Now this almost may sound like a contradictory question, but where do you like to go in Mexico City that's quiet?
Here.
Here? You're in home or in the neighborhood?
This neighborhood.
And we won't mention it.
No, I've specifically not mentioned my neighborhood for a few reasons. No, Chapultepec.
Yeah.
Chapultepec. That one is.
It's surprisingly quiet for how big it is, and in the middle of the city.
Yep.
We love it there.
Yep. Exactly. Right? Like especially if you're in one of the, like you go off the main path and you're so quiet.
I mean, you just walk in a few 100 meters and the noise just dies down.
Yep.
It's amazing.
Exactly. Exactly.
Right, now, last one. If you were to have to move back to Mexico and it wasn't Mexico, and you had to choose somewhere that's not Mexico City, and let's also throw in not Cuernavaca, where would you move?
I would maybe go north, but not because Bacalar. Can we count Bacalar?
Okay,
no,
sure.
No, I don't think I could live Bacalar long term. I think it'd be like a place that you go for. I would probably go north, partially because of its location to home.
Oh, okay.
Especially since I now have a 1-year-old nephew.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, like maybe Ensenada.
Okay. Yeah.
Maybe Ensenada because you can get to San Diego easily, you can get to Phoenix easily. Right. But it's on the ocean. I would likely go somewhere that's on the water.
And it has nice weather too.
Yeah, exactly.
West Coast beaches, which are very nice weather. Like,
exactly.
Like Cabos and all in La Paz, all those.
Exactly. I would probably go somewhere like that. Somewhere either Baja North or Baja Sur.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Excellent. All right. All right, now let's move on to our little last part, which is something important for people who are considering moving here, which is kind of get into the visas and residencies,
Yeah.
right? So
something I forgot to mention too in the whole housing situation is that a lot of realtors and a lot of landlords have been requiring clients to have residency in order to rent to them.
Yeah, which it definitely makes it a lot easier. Even when we first moved to Queretaro, we kind of ran into that issue because we weren't residents then, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and it's something I kind of asked you before, and I was even a little bit confused about, and you kind of clarified it. You know, because there's visas and residency. Now, are they kind of tied together here, or what's kind of the difference? What are some visas people can get, or what are some residencies that people can get?
Okay, so how it works is you go to the consulate, you get your visa, then you come here, and your visa is either for, say, temporary residency, permanent residency, a student visa for student residency.
Okay.
And then those are the main, permanent and temporary are the main ones. Now, if you're going to be coming here, like when I studied here, I did a 3-month immersion program organized through my university. And this was also back in 2000. The law was completely different back then. But so now, if you're a student and you're actually you have to be full-time studying at one of the universities with like the letter from the university stating the student has been accepted into X program, blah, 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 blah. Right. It's not at least it's not something that I work with regularly. Or it's not something you see very often, or I don't know, or maybe, there's someone else that specializes in it, and that's why it doesn't come across us very often. But permanent and temporary are pretty much the main visas you're going to get, and those are granted at the consulate. Okay, right. And then once you come into Mexico, you convert that visa into a residency card. Okay. So visas, and the term that we think about visas, I want to go to said country, I need to get a visa to go to that country. Right. That doesn't apply to a lot of people coming to Mexico. Okay. It applies to certain nationalities and certain passport holders. Okay. So a visa like Cuban, Venezuela, a lot of other Latin American countries have to have a visa, a tourist visa, to enter Mexico. Okay. Okay. Unless they already have a multi-entry visa to the US, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, EU, Schengen, Schengen, Japan, and Ireland. Okay, so they've probably gone through a process to get that already. So that's probably why it's easy. That's exactly. They've already been cleared by these other countries, so Mexico will let them in. But for example, I have clients coming from another Latin American country. Okay. They had to get approved for their tourist visa at the embassy, the Mexican embassy in their country, to then enter Mexico. They don't have free entry into Mexico. Right. But that doesn't apply to a lot of the people that I work with. Sure, like Canadians, Americans. Exactly, Canadians, Americans. And then I have a lot of Chinese clients, but they are Chinese residing usually in these countries, in the US or Canada. So they already have whatever visa it is that allows them for entry into Mexico. Okay. Yeah. Okay. That's good. Because I said, maybe I was thinking of other countries, because I know sometimes you have to get a visa, like a student visa. And that's why you don't get residency. They just give you the visa. Exactly. Okay. So yeah, I was even not aware of the difference. A slight difference, but a difference. Yep. Okay. And one of the things that people get really confused is if they're coming here for tourism, for an American, they're always like, oh, I have the 180-day visa in my passport. It's not a visa. Right. It's a tourist permit. And it's a very different thing, because visas are only granted at consulates and embassies. Okay. They are not granted entering the country. Okay. So, and people are always like, semantics. I'm like, no, actually it's a completely different thing. Like a visa requires, proof of income and financials and an application and an interview. Just showing up and getting a stamp in your passport is not a visa. Right. That's true. I guess I never thought of it like that way. I'll even admit and say I was probably one of those people who would say, I even do it. Yeah, permanent, the FFM. Yeah, the FMM. Yeah, yep. and visas, whatever. It's yeah. I guess if no, they're very different. Think of it like that. You're absolutely right. Yeah, if you think about it from an immigration officer's perspective, they're two very different things. Right. Like I said, all the financials and everything you have to prove. Okay. Oh, that's good. I never thought of it that way.
Now, and you kind of mentioned a little bit. I don't know if we can go. We don't have to go into too much detail into all the small things, but what are maybe some of the costs or procedures people might have to expect when getting or trying to apply for residency?
So, if they're doing residency, the standard way outside of the country based on economic solvency, they have to get an appointment at the consulate, and it's a $51 USD fee. She doesn't like that amount, apparently. A $51 USD fee that you pay at the consulate.
Okay. Or
it's like 63 Canadian dollars, or wherever you are.
Sure.
And I don't know exactly how that is at like other, because I think in Belize you still pay 51 USD.
Okay.
I think in other countries you still pay the USD. Some countries still do USD, other countries do pound, just depending on where you are. I need you to stop. I need you to stop. Stop it. Hey.
Don't look at me.
Yeah. Don't look at him. He's not going to do anything for you. I should have sent you to school today. I wasn't thinking. So then there's the Mexican end of things.
Okay.
People think, I go to the consulate, I get my visa, I'm good to go. No.
No.
There's a whole second procedure that takes place here in Mexico where you have to go to the immigration office. You have to submit a series of paperwork, and along with your passport with the visa in it, copies of your passport, and then you pay either the temporary residency fee or the permanent residency fee. So temporary residency fee, which will be going up on January 1st. And all the fees, any fee will be going up. All the fees will be going up on January 1st.
Okay, which I know happens quite a bit, almost
annually.
Yearly? Right.
Annually, yeah. So because it's a tax,
right?
So I shouldn't use the word fee. It's a tax.
Okay.
Or a payment of rights is what it literally translates to.
Right.
And right now for temporary it's 5,108 pesos.
Okay.
And for permanent, 6,226 pesos.
Now, the 5,000, is that yearly? Or is that for a 1 year residency?
It's the first year.
Okay. Right.
And then after the first year, you're allowed to renew for 3 years, up to 3 years.
Right.
You can do 1 year if you think you're only going to be here for 2 years, but after 4 years as a temporary, then you become permanent.
Right. Then you have to, right?
Yeah, you either have to convert to permanent or you just, I guess you go back and start over. I don't know. I don't know.
That's true, right? Yeah. What would happen?
I've had someone that didn't want to do permanent. I don't remember what they ended up doing. I think they just gave it up. I don't remember. Yeah.
Okay. Which to me just seems crazy. Just get the permanent and whatever happens, right?
Yeah. Well, I guess the difference is like with permanent, with having a vehicle, someone they wanted to import their vehicle. Right. Like, I don't know. I've never been attached to a vehicle, so that much that I'm like,
yeah.
But everybody to each their own, right? Everybody has their thing. So I forgot what I was going to say. Oh yeah. So you can renew up to 3 years.
Right.
It's, if you know that you're going to stay or that you want to get your permanent eventually, it's more cost effective and more efficient to do the 3 years right out the chute after your 1 year at your 1 year renewal.
Right. That's what we did.
Yeah, because it's cheaper. It's much cheaper, and you don't have to go back to immigration 3 times to keep renewing and then convert to permanent. So, and then that fee this year is $9,693 for 3 years.
Okay.
Next year that'll go up. It'll probably go up to about 10,000 something.
Sure.
And then when you convert to permanent, there's also a permanent residency fee.
Of course.
Yeah. So there's it's called change of condition fee, which is 1,632 pesos as of today. It'll be different January 1. And then that permanent residency fee, which is 6,226 pesos.
Okay. So 8,000 pesos.
About 8,000. Yeah.
Okay.
About 450 USD. Yeah. And then, anything, if you hire a facilitator, whatever their fees are.
Oh, sure. Now, and we'll slowly getting into that, because I know that's what you kind of do and help people with, is let's go, before we get to that, if somebody were doing it on their own, right, what would you advise or what suggestion would you give to them? Because I know a lot of people tend to go that way, and you hear stories about that.
Yep. I mean, every office, so we get a lot of questions about the consulate. Legally, we can't actually do much with the consulate other than help them figure out when the consulate opens up their appointments for the, and each consulate functions differently.
Sure.
So like the first thing is making sure that they're communicating with the consulate very clearly. I get a lot of questions about what do I need to take to my consulate appointment? I don't know. Ask them. Each consulate has different requirements.
Right.
Each consulate wants, someone stamped, someone your paperwork stamped by the bank, someone X, Y, and Z, someone a wet signature with a letter, someone an employer's, their contract from their employer.
Right.
Some literally don't care. You can print it off and walk in. You can go to everything's different.
And one of the common things we've heard is even like back, when you go in the U.S. consulates, even consulate to consulate, they require different amounts of funds for to prove solvency.
Yes.
You go one and
every single one's different.
Yeah, like you need like proof $5,000-$7,000 a month. One, $2,000 a month. $8,000. It's just
it's very
it's a crapshoot.
Yeah, it is a crapshoot, and it's also different for permanent and temporary as well. And then permanent is really more for retirees. Like majority of consulates do not approve you for permanent unless you're of a certain age or can prove that you are retired, or you have to be a combination of both. Like 58. But retired, but you're not 62, so therefore they still give you temporary. It kind of depends. Each consulate's different, and I've seen each consulate kind of change over the years too, in regards to who gives what more easily, et cetera, et cetera. So doing it on their own, making sure that they have a lot of patience.
Yes, but you're gonna have to learn in Mexico anyway.
Correct.
So
exactly.
might as well start at the beginning.
Exactly. Making sure that they have a lot of patience. Making sure that they sign all of their documents in blue ink.
Okay.
Making sure that their signature is identical to their passport.
Yes.
Identical. And when I say identical, I mean when I go in for my conversion, my passport signature, I have no idea why I thought I needed to sign my full name. Like I'm gonna have to like literally just copy over, put a piece of paper, trace my own. I have no idea how I'm going to do it, but I'll figure it out. When I went to do my change of address, they bounced me 3 times. Like, your signature doesn't match. I'm like, but I'm standing right here. Can I just sign? Because you have to sign it before you go in. They don't like you to have it unsigned.
Sure.
So, but then if it doesn't match.
Yeah, we have to do that too. Or I have to do that one for the switch on the temporary residence.
Yeah.
Again and again. And I'm like, oh.
Yeah. So the signature thing is a big ordeal here. Just making sure that they look at what's called the micrositio, which
is what?
It's the INM's microsite.
Okay.
That gives everything that you need, and filling out the paperwork, correctly, and then just double checking with people in the area to find out what, depending on where they're going. Like Chetumal, for example, requires something completely different than Oaxaca, than Mexico City, than Cuernavaca. Like some offices do require a proof of address. They have to have an address here in Mexico.
Right.
It doesn't have to necessarily be their permanent address yet.
Right.
But they should be doing the procedure in a city where they intend to live.
Right.
So say it's a digital nomad who moves countries or cities every 6 months. Try and use an address that they are going to be regularly coming back to. Okay. So, but some cities do require proof of address. So it has to be an electric bill or, a servicio fijo, like a
utility.
Like a utility bill. Yeah, but it can't. I learned this the other day because I have gas that doesn't get delivered. I have like the natural. I don't know,
Mm-hmm.
but like my bill comes, name, etc. But apparently the people that get the gas, it's just like delivered. It's a paper written note.
Oh, okay.
And that doesn't count.
Okay.
I just learned this recently because I've never thought about it because I don't have that kind of gas.
Okay, true. Okay.
So it has to be one that, comes from the company.
Right.
So CFE is most ideal.
Common, right? I'm assuming because probably most of the utilities are, again, they're government run, so it's more like official. Some guy delivering gas.
Yeah. I didn't even think about that way, but yes, good point. Because you can't use a lease, you can't use a cell phone bill, and you can't use a phone bill.
Okay.
Yeah, and it has to be within 90 days too. The bill has to be within 90 days.
Right.
Yeah. Or maybe even 60 days. Hey, But it does not have to be in the person's name because a lot of utilities here are not in the renter's name.
Right.
They're in the owner of the building's name.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So as long as it's the address matches, then it's all good.
Good.
And then let's see, what are other some just like little things to think about? Yeah, just patience. A lot of patience. If you're doing it on your own, a lot of people go back multiple times.
Mm-hmm.
Either it's the signature, or they signed in black ink, or they need copies of their passport and copies of their visa. And they need to be in black and white.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, I think a lot of times people think color's better, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I've never had anyone confirm or deny this, but it's considered counterfeit if it's a color copy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so Clover? I mean, you're not Clover. So there's that.
All right, well now, what?
Yeah, I was just say I can't really think of anything else, but if anything else comes to me, I'll
Well, now my next question would be kind of going to what you do is like, why should someone hire someone like you, like a residency expert or relocation service expert? What do you bring to the table?
I mean, we have my agency has 3 packages, and we can just do your paperwork, and so at least you have the like peace of mind knowing that you have everything that you need, it's done correctly, and you can go and you have the time to go wait in line, get the appointment, wait in line again, because here in Mexico City, how it works is you get your appointment. You can either go the day before in the afternoon, and you're given an appointment first thing the next morning. Okay. Then you get to the appointment time, and there are 30, I think they give 30 to 60 appointments per time slot. So it's not like you get there at 9 and it's just you.
Oh, really?
You're also then waiting in line again, and it can take 2.5, 3 hours just to get up to the window to then have them review your paperwork.
Okay.
And a lot of the agents do not speak English. There are very few agents in the Mexico City office that speak English. And then, they review your paperwork. And I find it, even though I know exactly what's happening, I sit there and I'm always like, what's happening? Like, they're typing in the computer, and then they're looking at something, and they're typing in the computer, and then they go to a supervisor, and they get something stamped, and they go print something else, and then they come back, and they have you sign something, and they come back, and they go to a supervisor again. And it's not this, like you take the paperwork, here you go, and they're like, okay, here's your card.
Right.
You go to, there's step 1 downstairs here in Mexico City. Step 1 downstairs, you go to the window. And then after that, and if there's an issue, say there is an issue, say you've done it on your own, and you accidentally misspelled your name, like, typo, whatever, you get bounced. You have to go back and start all over. Yeah. Like, I mean, not all over back at the consulate, but you have to go back and you redo the paperwork. Yeah. You have to go get in line again. You have to wait for wait to get the appointment. You have to go back for the appointment, wait in line again. Or sometimes there's a systematic issue. No. I've had people where they got to Mexico before, because you have 6 months from the time you're granted your visa, right? So I've had people that get here, say their visa expires February 12th. They get here on February 11th, go to immigration on February 12th to get their appointment, which is then February 13th. They're still fine because they're within the 30 days that they're granted to start the process. Mm-hmm. However, because the visa has now expired, Mexico has to validate it with the consulate and or embassy.
I'm sure that's fun.
So, and that can take, legally, they have up to 30 days to do that. So some people, all these people that are like, I need to get everything done in one day. And I'm like, do you realize? Like, this is not, like, could you imagine going to the United States and be like, I need to get my residency in one day? I mean, that's like a 10-year, 20-year, I don't even know how long it takes. Yeah. I have the luxury of not having to ever worry about that. But like, anyways, so, you have people like always be prepared that there could be a delay. Sure. Like, and then last week they were having some systematic issues. Everything last week we had to come back the next morning for them to finish. Oh, okay. There was something that was going on with the computer system. That happens every once in a while. Or the consulate made a mistake. Oh, this is one like huge thing. Always check your visa. Always check your visa before you leave the consulate. Always. It could have a name error. It could have a date of birth error. It could have your passport number, incorrect.
Right.
And I've seen it happen here both ways. I've seen them completely say, no, you got to wait. We have to validate this with the consulate. And I've seen them say, okay, every other piece of documentation, says this. It's correct in the system. We're going to let it through.
Right. I think that lends to the idea of anything can be, every agent, every office, everything can be different.
Exactly.
It's a lottery.
You
get the one that's happy and nice and, I understand, no problem.
Exactly.
Or you got the one that's like, nope.
Yep, exactly. So, you can have systematic issues. Or, for example, the card machine can break down. And then you can be sitting there in line waiting to get your card, and they're like, everybody go home, come back tomorrow, the machine's broken. So just these things. So what we do is package one, we know all of your paperwork on our end is correct. Something might be an issue in the consulate. Like I had a girl when she was at the consulate, the electricity went out. And so they had her come back the next day to get her visa. She got into Mexico fine, although they had a hard time finding her in the system at the airport.
Oh, okay.
And so we're like, okay. And then when we went to file, they're like, we can't find her. They couldn't find her, so they had to confirm with whatever consulate she went to, and that it did. It was the only person I've ever seen take 30 days. Oh, luckily, wow. She's here. She's someone that lives here. It wasn't someone that was like taking, but yeah.
No, okay.
So, not she. So back to what we do. I'm kind of rambling.
So is it, package one is paperwork?
Package one is paperwork. We tell you where to go. We tell you where to line up, what to expect, what documents you're going to need. Package two is your paperwork, and we get your appointment.
Okay.
For you. So we save you from the either lining up in the afternoon or lining up at 6 in the morning and waiting in line for a couple of hours. It used to be more painful. You used to have to get there at 4 a.m., wait in line for for hours. It's not as bad, but still, it's not it's not. You walk up, someone's like, "Here's your appointment. Come back tomorrow." Like
you gotta wait.
Yeah, you gotta wait. There's a lot of waiting that goes on in this country in general. And then we provide you all of the paperwork that you need, and then you go in for your own appointment. But you still have to sit through that. Depending on what number you are in line, when they call you off the clipboard, you still have to wait for all the people in front of you, then present your own documents, and then go upstairs for your biometrics. And then our third package is we do everything, and you show up. We used to be able to have you show up the same day, but because of the way the system's been and the way they've been doing biometrics, we do the biometrics the following day.
Oh, okay.
Because of the time. They started closing biometrics. They used to close biometrics at like 2:30, and now they close it at 1, and usually we're not out in time to do both. And that we do everything. The only thing that the clients have to do is come back to meet us at the immigration office. We give them their passport. They go to what's the CURP. There's a little CURP cubicle.
Okay.
Where they get their CURP number, and then they go upstairs for their photos, biometrics, fingerprints, and they walk out with their card.
Okay. So, that's great as far as working with residency. Now, do you only do like residency help, or do you yourself or your company do like relocation as far as like helping people find apartments, set up utilities? You also do that kind of work?
Yep. Okay. We do. We do.
You want to expand on that? Anything more?
Sure. Yeah. We kind of do. The bulk of our work is residency, but we have a lot. All of clients be like, "Hey, I need to go open a bank account, or I need an RFC, the tax ID number."
Right.
Or I do relocation tours where people know that they want to come to Mexico City, but they don't know Mexico City. So I'll ask them for their criteria of, what are you looking for? Like, what's important to you in an apartment? Like, what's important to you in a neighborhood? What's important to you? Do you want to be close to mass transit? And I cater it. I curate it specifically for them. I've had one client where they were completely furnished. They rented a house down in the San Angel area, and had to buy everything. So went with them, went with her to purchase all the appliances, went with her to, 3 mattress store. Like we did, just spent the entire day just shopping, because she wanted a translator, someone that kind of knew how things worked, someone that could to have a Mexican phone number to be able to get all the deliveries done, all that sort of stuff.
It's so many little things that people may not consider, right? But then when they get here, and then I think one of the things that you bring is being able to speak the language, because we're able to do it ourselves mostly as far as getting bank accounts, blah blah blah, those small things. But my Spanish is intermediate, high intermediate, so I could definitely navigate my own ways through. But again, not even considering that, someone who may be coming here knows nothing. Right. You're going to want to help. Yeah. Yeah. I think it's a good idea to hire someone as yourself. Right. Or I've gone and sat in on the signings of apartments before with clients because they don't know what the contract says. Sure. That sort of thing. And I have a lawyer on my team as well that helps do things on the civil registry end. Okay. So she is anything to do with like registering marriages, because if it's a Mexican citizen and a foreigner, there are other steps that need to be taken. Or if someone has a baby here in Mexico, you automatically get permanent residency, but you have to have the baby registered, you have to get the birth certificate, you have to get the passport before you go and do the family unity procedure at immigration. Okay. So there are lots of things that we do. Wow. Done a lot of opening bank accounts, relocation tours, setting up utilities, I would assume.
Not so much because the majority of utilities are building
or rentals, right?
Exactly. I don't think I've ever helped any. I don't think I've even. Yeah, I definitely have to own the house, right? To Wi-Fi, yes.
Sure.
Wi-Fi. Getting a Telcel account. Those sort of things. Right. Getting, going and buying a SIM card, like but yeah, the water, gas, electric, not really anything I've ever dealt with.
That's true.
Because most of the time it is taken care of by the landlord, right? Or the building owner.
Have you ever had to? I guess you probably may not be able to do it, or maybe the attorney. I know when you buy a house like we did in Queretaro, you have to have like a Mexican translator there. Even if you speak the language, I think by law, what I understood is you had to have a translator there for you. Oh. Right, when you buy a house. It's like you've never had to deal with that?
But I've never had anybody
buy a house.
Yeah. And because I have a realtor that I partner with, so she handles it.
Oh, okay. Yeah. It's something we learned when we bought a house.
Yeah. No, I actually didn't know that. I don't know. And it could also vary by state as well.
Sure. That's the thing. True too.
That's the thing. Like Mexico, a lot of people think of Mexico, oh, Mexico's a country. Like Africa's a continent, right? People are like, I went to Africa. Where? There are multiple countries that make up Africa. And, people just think about, oh, Mexico. Well, every state is different. Even like delegaciones here in Mexico City. Like we have
governments.
They all have their own governments. Yeah. And, it's kind of like New York. Like you've got the different boroughs. Right. Mexico City, same thing. Like, you'll have different laws depending on where you are.
Right. It's a whole. Well, it's not a different world, but it is. In a way. Especially if you're coming here and, like I said, you're trying to navigate everything. As a new person to the country and the city. Yep. It's going to be very eye-opening. Yeah. Especially if it's your first time traveling abroad. Maybe people may have experience. They've gone to other countries and dealt with those kind of things. Yeah. But
I've been to Mexico. I've been to Cancun. Right. No, you haven't been to Mexico.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, that's great. I think this is all, really good information. I think, people who may be considering moving need to consider. So I guess my last question would be, and I'll also put like your information, on the details of your, website, whatever is the best way to contact you. But any, let's say, parting advice, for people who may be considering moving to Mexico.
Oh, I thought you said partying advice. And I'm like, make sure you make friends. Be careful leaving the anthros late at night. Partying advice. Yeah. Just, really try to make the best of it. Try to actually integrate because this is not your home. You can make it your home. Right. You know what I mean? But this is not where you're coming from. And the best way to do it is to integrate. I cannot emphasize enough. One of the biggest blessings I feel like is to be adopted by a Mexican family. There's really no other like true gift in life than being adopted by a Mexican family. Right. I have the luxury of two. I have my neighbors and then I have my Mexican family in Cuernavaca. And nice. I've never felt so just cared for. There's always people looking out for me, and if I need something, you know what I mean? Like, I'm like, oh, I'm trying to call the laundry technician and they keep hanging up on me and I don't understand what she's saying because she talks just way too, you know what I mean? Or they're, you know, just little things like that. Definitely trying to understand the culture and the language. You know, you don't have to become fluent, but like try just the basics.
It goes a long way.
Yeah, it goes a long way. I mean, my mom and I, you know, I'll blow her up. She knows. Like, she is a permanent resident. She's been a resident longer than I have. She owns property in Mexico. The poor woman, like, can barely pronounce Puerto Penasco.
Yeah.
Puerto Penasco. I'm like, like, I understand for some people, you know, languages are hard.
Sure.
But they come naturally to me. Math does not.
Right. Right.
That's why I do not own my own place yet, because no. So I get it, but yeah, just trying, and also, you know, trying to learn like some of the nuances of the country. Patience, like,
yes,
I was actually at a Thanksgiving dinner with Americans. I don't spend a lot of time with Americans here unless I'm with my clients, but I was at an American Thanksgiving dinner, and we were talking about how some of the things that make life here a little bit more simple is that there's things that, like, you're like, what, like, no, and then all of a sudden you're like, there's nothing I can do about this, so just let it go. Yeah. Like, I'm still waiting on a laundry technician from like 2.5 weeks ago to show up. Yeah. I'm still waiting for Telmex to come and replace my internet from when I moved 4 years ago from my old apartment.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, I've since obviously gotten a different provider but like, moved on. Yeah, I moved on. But like, these are things that you're just like, oh, I can't control that. And the harder you try to control things here, and like the angrier you get, and the more frustrated you get, and the more you raise your voice, like the you're not going to get anywhere. Right. I mean, you know,
and I think that's been a common theme. I think, you know, as we've done a few of these little interviews or podcasts, whatever, I think that's always one of the things people mention is you have to learn patience. If you don't have patience, you're going to learn patience.
Yep. Yep. Exactly. Exactly.
You know, kicking and screaming, you're going to learn patience because you have to.
Yep. And another thing that I would say, and this is something that might be a little controversial, but because of the way Mexico's set up, and because of the way that residency is set up for foreigners, no, scratch that. I'm gonna leave the tax aspect out of that. Take that out. But we have the privilege of coming here. We have the privilege of coming to a country that a lot of people here do not have the privilege of going to our country.
Sure.
Right? Like, it is not easy to get into the United States if you are Mexican.
Right.
And we can just walk in here, you know, flash a few dollar bills at the consulate, flash a few, you know, pieces of paper that show we have enough money, and we can just, you know, come here pretty freely. And even just to visit, we can come here pretty freely. Try and give back, whether, you know, give back in a way to, like, I work with a dog shelter, which I actually do a lot of different stuff because I have a lot of different passions, but try and get back. Like, even though it is hard to volunteer here, it's not really a cultural thing to volunteer. I don't know why exactly, but
interesting.
do their best not to just come here and be like, I love Mexico, I'm going to live my best life here, and not integrate. And when I say, you know, when I said earlier, integrate into society, get to know some Mexicans, that sort of thing. But try and I do feel like it truly is a privilege to be in Mexico. I really do. I mean, 24 years ago, I fell in love with this country, and I still consider it a privilege that I got to come back here and live here and have all of the luxuries I have, a lot of them which I would not have at home. And therefore, I want to be able to show my appreciation by, you know, volunteering or donating time or donating money or whatever it is that can show my appreciation to this country that is so openly welcomed us and, you know, let us come down with I don't know where that's going. So you can do that.
No, that's awesome. No, I mean, I appreciate it, and I understand. You know, and it's definitely good advice, right? You know, come in, be ready to integrate, be ready to give back, which I think that's good advice. You know, no matter where you are.
Yeah.
Right? So, you know, again, one more time, I want to thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I will put all the information here because she does offer, you know, great services as far as people who may be moving here. So look for that in the details. And thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
See you next time. All right.
So much.
Bye bye.